Hey, how's everybody doing? Welcome to the TigerTallTree Perspective. This is my first installment of this new podcast I'm starting out. This podcast was originally supposed to be me and my late wife Yolanda, but unfortunately, it's just going to be me. The premise of this podcast and what my platform is mostly going to be about is pretty much you know news, politics, health. And when I talk about health, I'm talking about bringing awareness to kidney disease, which is what my late wife transitioned from. That was the disease that unfortunately she passed away from. So I would like to really bring awareness to, like I said, kidney disease. If there's anybody out there that has a foundation or a nonprofit that's helping promote awareness to kidney disease, please leave a comment and get at me, and I will help promote the awareness and help you out with that. Part of the things that I want to talk about with this kidney disease, and we'll start with that with health today, is we have to understand that a lot of our family members that have kidney disease, what they're going through. I don't just want to talk about kidney disease from the actual disease perspective, which we'll get into, which most people know what it is. But I'm talking about, the emotional, physical, mental, draining aspect of it. I'm talking about the light, the lifestyle change, from the diets to traveling to even making future plans. All of that stuff change when people find out they have kidney disease, depending on what stage it is. I also want to promote advocacy for our kidney patients, for our family members with kidney disease, going through dialysis, waiting on a kidney transplant, whether their dialysis is at the facility or prenatal where they bring it home and do it through the stomach. It really doesn't matter. I'm just talking about just being there for them. And just anybody in general that's going through something in life, whether it's chemo, whether it's any type of other disease or disability. We got to make sure that we advocates for our people. That's pretty much what I'm getting at as far as the health side of things. Not just our diet and our exercise and things like that, but the real mental part. How do they feel? What are they thinking? You know, a lot of times my wife would get quiet, and that's when I know she was thinking about her kidney disease, because you just know. You see their minds thinking, and you see them going into a thought trance, because this is for real. This is life threatening, serious situations for these people. And I just want them to know that we care. There are people out there that care about them, for them. And that's pretty much it with that. I'm not gonna drag it on in future episodes or installments of this podcast. I'll get in depth with things like that as far as the kidney disease, different types of disease is concerned. So with that, I'm going to pivot to what I'll consider my next subject, which will probably be the news and politics. Which really, I believe that a lot of the news and a lot of politics that's happening right now are just distractions, and they're being put out there to change the narrative so we don't understand what's really happening and what's really about to happen. And there's a bigger picture of things happening in the geopolitical field that if we don't pay attention, we'll get caught in what's coming. Next year is going to be crazy, everybody. Besides just being an election year, we have all kind of events happening, from wars and rumors of wars to, you know, food crisis coming. We just went through a pandemic. You know, it's crazy because they say I believe that Trump's going to win next year, even though he's going through all of these trials right now. I see him going through it. I understand that this is going to be there for a while. I still think it's a distraction. It's crazy that right now Trump is still leading in all polls by at least 4% against Biden. They say that no incumbent president has ever been behind that much, except twice in history. That's when Trump lost to Biden last election, and this time Biden is the incumbent and he's trailing Trump. That right there should tell you what's coming down the pike. Also, the Georgia prosecutor, she just asked for an August 5th trial date of 2024. That means that they will begin that trial 3 months before next year's election. If that doesn't seem strange to you, I don't see how anything will. The AP is also reporting fears of political violence are growing as 2024 campaign heats up and conspiracy theories evolve. Now, I just want you to hear. I got a couple of sound bites I want you to hear. Part of the soundbite has some writing, so I'll read what it's saying. But I just want you to listen and understand where I'm coming from. It'll all come together. All right, here we go. Envelope with fentanyl sent to election. Election workers were back counting ballots in Washington State a day after an envelope containing powder shut down operation for hours.
They did their investigation and were able to notify us that, in fact, the envelope did contain trace amounts of fentanyl, similar to the envelope that we received in the August primary election. I'm happy to report that all of our staff are safe and sound. And after 3 hours of being evacuated, the team came back into the elections facility after, of course, it had been professionally cleaned and resumed processing for this general election.
Election officials in at least 5 states appear to have been targeted, including Washington, Oregon, Georgia, Nevada, and California. 4 of the letters contained fentanyl. The FBI and U.S. Postal Inspection Service reported in a statement. Just south of Kings County, election officials in Pierce County released pictures of the envelopes and letters inside.
It's certainly saddening to know that folks want to cause us harm. And I think we all know here, though, they're intentionally trying to break us enough to stop elections, and that's not going to happen. It quite frankly did the opposite. It lit a fire underneath us. We are resilient and we are determined and we are passionate about the work, which is nonpartisan election administration, counting your ballot.
This, though, goes to show you that there are some crazy people out there who will go to any extreme to disrupt, interrupt fair, open, transparent elections in our country, and specifically here in Fulton County. It's my personal belief that this is just probably a forerunner to what we can be prepared for in 2024.
So with that being said, they're basically telling you that there's going to be people out there doing anything they can to stop the 2024 election. That's the narrative. They're giving that out right now. They're letting you know that's going to happen. All right. So if we listen to that, that'll tell you one thing that they're expecting. All right. That's the election aspect of it. Now, remember, we have wars and rumors of wars. Here's another sound clip I want you to listen to, and bear with me.
I'm concerned about a cell sitting inside America today. We just caught 18 people just last month on the FBI terrorist watch list coming across our border. More than 160 have done it this year, a record breaking. When we're looking around the Middle East and the uprisings popping up around Europe and others, they could be sleeper cells right now in America, but this administration hasn't done nothing to change what's happening on the southern border.
We have to step up together.
So basically, once again, they're letting us know that there's sleeper cells in the United States. They've been telling that for years. For years. So now we got them telling us that the election might be stolen. They're telling us this early that we might have terrorist cells in the United States. And now I was looking at the weather forecast, the winter weather forecast for 2023 to 2024. They're forecasting that another El Nino is headed this way. So basically, the first half of this winter will pretty much be warm and wet. The second half of this winter, the end of January, February, all the way into March, they're talking going to be freezing, possible major snowstorms, a couple of them, 3 or 4, and they're talking about up to 26 inches of snow in the Northeast. Sounds like a cold, dark winter, right? Okay, so now we're going to have that going on. Let me continue to draw the picture. So we covered that the election is going to be trying to be stolen. We covered that. Look at this. Right before the election, Donald Trump's going to be going to trial again. Now let's go into October 18 Reuters 2022 article. 47 million chickens slaughtered due to the avian flu, bird flu. In 2023 so far, little over 5 million. Thousands and thousands of cows were culled due to weather, unknown reasons that they were saying that hundreds of cows were just found dead. And then you have the processing plants mysteriously burning down, being destroyed. Enough where there's a backup on processing the food. So a lot of ranch owners had to cull their cows, which is basically slaughter their cows and kill the cows because they can't afford to keep feeding them without making a profit because the backup of the processing plants was so long. Now, some of the processing plants backup started with COVID when people couldn't go to work. That was the beginning of it. And then you also had a lot of fires and a lot of them destroyed. Now let's talk about California. Did y'all know that California produced almost half of the produce in our country? About 40%, a little over 40% of the broccoli, the cauliflower, the strawberries, the lettuce, and all other kind of stuff that's grown in California. Fox Weather, 2023, March. They explain how California was flooded. So what is that telling you? So that's telling you that next year is going to be crazy. It's going to be hard. And I think everybody needs to prepare some type of way. I'm not trying to scare y'all. I'm not trying to tell y'all to be preppers. It might even be too late to even become preppers, but you're going to have to do something. Everybody tells you it's going to be a cold winter. I think that's the first thing we're going to have to make it out of. We're going to have to make it through this winter. So my suggestion is when Christmas time and things come, please don't spend your money on frivolous things. Next year is going to be hard. Try to think long term. Think ahead. Think buying some seeds now. Buying some wool blankets for every member of your family now. The reason why I say that is last year here in Charlotte, Duke Energy turned the power off intentionally on Christmas Eve. Over 500,000 residents in this area, power went off. Now they say that it happened because it was so cold that it was putting too much strain on the grid. Okay, so what's going to happen next year and the year after and the year after when it's really, really cold? What I'm trying to tell y'all, everybody, is please get used to and get ready for rolling blackouts. Look up the term deindustrialize the U.S. That was the plan, to deindustrialize the U.S. If they deindustrialize the U.S., what is that going to make us? Third world country. They're really trying to break us down, y'all. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to pivot everything into a conspiracy theory. Let's have a little fun, okay? Everything I'm about to say right now is conspiracy theory. All right, let's just keep it fun with that. We're going to go with this direction, but just listen to what I'm saying. I got notes here. I'm trying to get this right. All right, here we go. So in this conspiracy theory, you know how they say life imitates art or art imitates life? Based on everything that I told you and the things that I'm saying, it seems like as a conspiracy theory, just imagine if the globalists, the elitists, you know, the top shotters of the world, they really want to take us to the movie Hunger Games. Now, the reason why I say this as a conspiracy theorist, I'm just thinking, me personally, I think racism will not be the contributing factor into a lot of problems that's going to happen in the United States from now on. The reason why I say that is so many different people and immigrants and nationalities are coming across our border, millions and millions of people from all over the world, that there's no way that racism is going to be the contributing factor of everything. They're not going to be able to use that. That's why they're trying to get rid of the racism as far as, you know, mixing the nationalities, making people lose their nationality. You know, they're trying to take down all nations. They're not trying to have, you know, the United States against Europe. They would say, you know, or let me give you an example, Mexico against the United States. They would just say South America against North America. You understand what I mean? No more culture. That's one thing that they're trying to destroy. Second thing they're trying to destroy, and unfortunately, I believe that they're using the LBG letter community to do this, but it's to break down the nuclear family. Because if you break down the nuclear family, then they have more control. Okay? Now, with more control, with food crisis coming, with terror cells in the country, elections seemed about to be rigged again or robbed again. I personally think that the new slavery is classism. And that's why I feel like Hunger Games is going to be where we're going based on classism. And how I think this is going to go into effect is eventually the dollar is going to crash. I kind of behind the scenes think that it's probably crashed already. We just haven't been told about it because it takes time before you see things coming down the pike. But the dollar's going down fast. Okay? If the dollar was to crash, hypothetically, conspiracy theory, then how would the financial structure work? In my mind, it would be based on what you own. So what I mean by that is stock market crash, there's another Black Monday, the dollar's done, all heck is going on, barrels and barrels of dollars to just buy one loaf of bread, the dollar's useless, the peso's worth more than the dollar, hypothetically we get to that point, what happens? What's going to happen is, I believe, the classing is going to start based on what you own, actual assets. So for example, when a dollar crashes, if you own absolutely nothing, then you're going to be in zone one. I'm just giving an example. If you happen to own a camper, your own camper, you might be in zone two because you have a place to live, you have a bathroom, you know what I mean? You have a little bit more. If you own a house, outright own it, you might be in section 3. You understand what I mean? And so forth based on how much you own. You own a house, you own a building, you own your own business, you own everything. No debt. Remember, debt is the slavery. If you own debt, you're a slave automatically. And the reason why I think this is going to happen fast, is because look at how they put everybody in some serious debt. During COVID, they was told, hey, you don't got to pay your rent. After COVID, go to Supreme Court rules, no, you're supposed to pay your rent. Guess what? All them people owe that back money. Them homeowners, building owners, them landlords, they now have the right to go for their money because they still got to pay the mortgage on them buildings. They still got to pay the taxes for that property. If all the people aren't paying rent, aren't paying their mortgages or whatever, rent, you know what I mean? Then how does the landlord pay the taxes on the property? If he's not getting no money coming in, he can't take the loss. It's a business. So those people that owe the landlord, he's able to go get that money back, take everybody to court. You know how many evictions is about to happen? And then remember, if the dollar crashes, that means that interest rates going to skyrocket. Who's going to be able to afford their houses? Why do you think they're buying houses up left and right? They buying the houses up so when everything crashes, somebody owns those houses so that people can't run up in it. Look up the word owning property is a sin. Who said that? I believe that same person said, you would eat bugs and be poor and learn to love it. That's where they plan to take us to. The Great Reset, the World Economic Forum. Look up these words. Don't believe me. Look it up for yourself. Don't believe nothing I'm telling you. That's going to be my new slogan. Don't believe me. Look it up. But remember, this is also conspiracy theory, right? So with all that being said, and they trying to take it to the Hunger Games where everything's going to be based on classism and levels, how else do they complete this? Digital currency. Digital currency. That's how they track everything you do, your movement and everything. See, on the Hunger Games, everybody had credits. That's your digital currency. You got to walk around with something showing how much you got before you can move. They already starting the 15-minute cities. For real, check it out. Agenda 21. They've been doing this for years. They've been telling you they're going to do it. Now you're seeing 15-minute cities. They tell you that it's, it's for you, but it's for a reason. Did you know during the COVID pandemic in Australia and some other countries, they had that digital ID? If they told you you couldn't go 5 miles from your home, if you went 5.5 miles from your home, hypothetically, and you try to go to a store and use your debit card or whatever, it ain't gonna work because you're outside of that 5-mile limit. So what's gonna happen in the future when you're outside that 5-mile limit and you walk into a store and try to pay for something? Are they gonna keep you there and hold you and write you a ticket or lock you up and say you out your zone? You're violating the law. They're gonna track you, do your digital ID off your phone. I hope you didn't put that on your phone because they're tracking you. Conspiracy. So when you start putting all this together, doesn't it seem like Hunger Games? I'll go further than that. Check this out. Hold on, where's that? I got notes. I just want y'all to look up something because the next podcast I'll talk about this, but just to get y'all into doing a little homework here, I'm gonna try something different to make this a little interactive. Right now, while y'all listening, go to YouTube and look up The Line Construction Actually Started. The line construction actually started. Watch that video, and I'll come back next time and talk about it. But I'm telling you, art is imitating life to the fullest. Well, you'll see what they building in that video. I got a lot to talk about in that conspiracy theory, but these are things that's happening right now in our world. Not saying that all this is going to happen, because remember, it's a conspiracy theory. There's always ways of getting out of it. But if you look at what's actual, quote unquote, facts, even though I'm saying allegedly, it's a fact that 47 million chickens were killed in 2022. It's a fact that California grows half the produce in the country and it was just flooded back in March. That's facts. It's a fact that there was a Canadian fire that's smoked out everything and possibly killed the corn crops. It's a fact that cows were culled. It's a fact that processing plants caught fire some destroyed for whatever reason. But it's a fact that there's a backup in the processing plants, which means there's a backup in the food system. And then one thing leads to another, supply and demand. You know, the less there is, the more that's needed, the higher the price. You ever go buy steak lately? See how much a steak costs? Have you been into the shopping stores lately or supermarket? Notice that the price is going up, but the size of the containers are getting smaller. Huh? See, I'm old. I'm 52 years old. So I remember some of the other depressions and hard times we went through. I remember going to the supermarkets and mostly all the shelves were with black and white, all white cans with black sign that said no frills. That was in the late 70s, early 80s. Now it's not no frills, it's called great value, but it's still the same thing. I said that I've never been real religious. I've always been spiritual, but I have read the Bible. I went to Sunday school. My grandmother took the whole family to Sunday school every Sunday. And my grandmother used to make us all pick a book. She used to say, you don't got to read the whole Bible, just pick a book and just read that. So the book I used to like reading was Ecclesiastes. Because at the beginning of Ecclesiastes, it said, there's nothing under the sun that hasn't been done. There's cycles. Certain things repeat themselves in a different way, but, you know, it's been done. So once again, another great reset is trying to be put in the way. Look up what a great reset is. Look how many times there's been a great reset. There's a lot of things happening in the world right now that are really, really amazing. I'll give you one example, and I'll get into more of it in future podcasts. Look up Vladimir Putin unveils Tartarian archives. Just look that up. And then when you see that he's releasing the Tartarian archives, look up what is or what was Tartaria. See, this is the other aspect of the topics that I want to bring in, which is education. See, our education system is really, 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 really nonsense. And I'm not just talking about the United States education. I'm talking about education worldwide. There's things that they're not telling us that if they taught us, we as a human species should have been elevated mentally, physically, emotionally, spiritually years ago. Example, look up a man named Wim Hof, W-I-M, last name H-O-F. This man has proven he has actually did so much amazing things, like climbed the mountains in just a pair of shorts. And the only reason he didn't finish it because he hurt his ankle. He had a foot injury. But this dude has done amazing things, and he actually teaches other people to do it, who teaches other people to do it. He learned how to heal himself from all type of diseases, which, you know, I think we probably could do ourselves if we just sit back, meditate, and think about it. Check this out. I'm going to tell you a story, and this is true. Y'all could believe me or y'all don't have to believe me. I really don't care. When I was about, I think I was about 8 or 9 years old. I remember the address, 64 Tennessee Avenue, Hempstead, New York, Long Island. I went to Hempstead Library and I picked out a book about ninjas. And I was reading this book about ninjas, and in one of the chapters it was saying how ninjas could teach themselves how to breathe at such a slow rate that they could be considered clinically dead. And a lot of them used to do that so they could be considered dead, almost get buried or wrapped up and then come back alive or redo their breathing, and then you would think that they're deceased and gone. Just hypothetically, that's what they were saying, kind of like in the book. I'm going off the top of my head. I'm 52. It's been a long time since I read this book. But when I'm getting to, this is what I did. There was another part of the book where it was telling how when you do this breathing, you could actually let your body, your spirit leave your physical body. Now, when I was like 7 or 8 years old, maybe 9, I know this is when I was living in Hempstead. I got my parents used to have me and my brother had a bed where the bed collapses and slide under the bed, so you had 2 beds. Well, my brother's bed would slide out, pop it up. That was his bed, so I used to go under my bed and make it like a little cave. I'm young, so I was under there reading a book. I was doing the breathing, and no lie, my spirit left my body, and I rose out of my body, looking down at my physical body under the bed, and I got scared. So scared I started panicking because I realized I'm out my body, and I started going up instead of down back to my body until I just started relaxing, breathing slow, relaxing. I ended up back in my body. Real talk. And years later, I realized that that's what they call astral planing. I didn't know it. I was scared to death. I never tried it again until later on in life, maybe in my 30s. So the reason why I bring things like this up is because there's things that we could do that if was taught to us at such a young age, like I said, we as society could have such a giant leap forward in everything. Bobby Herman, I heard Bobby Herman say in one of his videos recently that having a college education and having college training are two different things. When you go to college, you get trained. You don't really get educated. They don't really want you to have education. They want you to be trained to do a specific job. Education is a lifelong task. You're constantly educating yourself. You're constantly learning. You're constantly striving to find out more and learn more. And I've over time realized that we as a human species get lazy. We get lazy because we get trained and learn how to do something that's helping us at that point of our life when we get accustomed to just doing that, and we don't want to learn no more. We don't want to expand no more. We don't want to move into nothing else for, I don't know, fear of change, fear of something, which is crazy because now that I think about the fear stuff, there's a book my man Damian Branch wrote called Mindset for Success. It's an ebook. It's online. You can look it up. Shameless plug, but yeah, look up Mindset for Success. In that book is a section that talks about fear. What is your fear? And that's the part that helped me begin to start this podcast. That's part of the book that helped me start moving forwards. I read it a couple of times, but over the last 2 weeks, I constantly read it as like a reference book to me. But I always read that one section about fear. That's the part that sticks with me the most. What do I fear the most to move forward? What do I fear the most to be able to do better? What do I fear the most to make this jump, to make this change, to make this switch, to make this move? And we have to really be honest with ourselves. What is our fears? What is our fears to move forward? What is our fears to learn more? What is our fears to open our mind to listen to somebody else, to listen to a different perspective? So with this conspiracy theories of mine of them trying to bring us up into the Hunger Games, like I said, please look up the construction of the line actually began. And that part is Maze Runner. Art imitating life, life imitating art, however you want to put it. When you look at that video, think about the movie Maze Runner and understand what I'm talking about. Just really, really just sit back and just watch what that says, watch what they tell you. I'll come back next time and I'm really going to speak on that. That's going to be the next conspiracy that I'm going to try to delve into. Okay, so we got that out the way. Conspiracies, we got channels out the way, got that out the way. Yeah, that's pretty much this first podcast, y'all. And the last segment of the podcast is going to be something that I call Tall Tree's Perspective. On this Tall Tree's Perspective, to end the show out, I'm basically just going to let you know, I guess this would be pretty much my initial mission statement. My mission statement is really to promote good education, promote the extended family, but definitely promote marriage. I really want to promote marriage. I feel that that's something that I've done right, that is really meaningful. And I want to promote natural law. Because going back to the natural law of things, and yeah, somebody got to say it. Somebody got to take a stance on it, and I'm going to take a stance on it. It's going to be me. I'll eat that. This is going to be hard to do. I know I'm going to probably get a lot of backlash and all kinds of stuff for it, but honestly, I have a right to my perspective, which is synonymous to my opinion. My perspective is my opinion, and I have a right to that. And my perspective is marriage works. Marriage is a great thing. And I really want to promote that. That's one thing I want to promote on this podcast is education, marriage, the extended family. See, I will admit that I was listening to Brother Umar Johnson, and he was saying something to the effect that a lot of us brothers who got our lives together left the so-called hood to move into nice areas and raise our kids there and left the ones that needed us by themselves. I'm guilty of that. I believed in the nuclear family so much that I got my wife and my kids. We moved out. I didn't move to a white neighborhood. I moved to a nice neighborhood. You would think it's white because it's that nice, but it's not. All my neighbors are black, Spanish, Arab, everything is diverse. But that's what I did. I moved to a nice side of Charlotte, nice area, nice home, nice neighbors, safe. But after hearing what that brother said after my wife passing away and realizing that it's a little bit more than just a nuclear family. Actually, it's much more. It's the extended family that we need. And do the social engineering of us being taught self about myself. I got to do this for me. I got to do this for me. It worked. It worked by me able to be married happily for almost 17 years, being my wife for 23, having kids, being a homeowner, a business owner, doing all the things that I said I was going to do. I was able to do it when I got away and got in my own little bubble for the last 17 years. But then at the same time, there's pros and there's cons. The pros to me doing that is I became successful in my own right. But the cons to that is that I got young nephews. Some of them I haven't even met yet. And it's bad because I was raised with my uncles and my grandfathers. And my uncles and my grandfather, they taught me a lot. My uncle Gary Drakeford, he's the one that taught me about chivalry. Everybody laugh at my cousin Greg because he's so smooth. Yeah, Greg is smooth. What's up, Greg? But we get that from Gary Drakeford. I remember my uncle first came. My moms were throwing a party. There was a whole bunch of girls sitting out there. And my uncle was like, "Come here, Tiger." He was like, "Listen, man, go over there and ask some girls, do they want something to drink?" And I'm like, "What?" He said, "Yeah, man, go over there and do that." And then you start seeing the smiles and everything. Then my Uncle George would tell me, you got to make sure you know how to fight. You got to make sure you can defend your lady, man. Make sure you be able to defend your old lady. You know what I'm saying, Tiger? That's my Uncle George. Tiger. Daddy. Yeah, that's my Uncle GT. He taught me how to fight. I remember I came home with a black eye in Roosevelt, 95 Willard Place. I used to go to Harry Daniels. I was little. Somebody was messing with my sister. I went around the corner and tried to fight him. Way bigger than me, big dude, bunch of brothers. Dude came out there and punched me dead in my face. Boop! Ran home. All my uncles was at the house. My Uncle George was like, nah. Going around that corner, my Uncle Gary was like, nah. There ain't no fair way to fight. Grab a garbage can, grab a brick, grab a tree stump. I don't care what you do. You just go back there and you better fight. So I went back around the corner. Got my ass whooped by 3 dudes this time. Stomped me out. Came back home. My uncle sent me back around the corner again. And he said, I'm going to send you back until they stop. And I remember the last time I went around the corner, I ended up going on the dude's step, and his mom came outside and was like, what's going on? I'm like, yeah, your son's just messing with my sister. I ain't going to let that happen. And I'm going to keep fighting them until they stop messing with my sister. So the mom said, go ahead, fight. And me and that dude had to square up. Me and that big dude, we squared up. And he fucked me up, he beat my ass, dead ass. But everybody on that side of town didn't mess with me after that. Nobody on that 95 Willard area going through the dead end and go all that whole area. I remember that. Nobody messed with me and my brothers after that because it wasn't going to stop. I learned those from my uncles. My uncles taught me rules and morals. My uncles used to say, don't ever lie to me, nephew. We don't accept that. So you can never lie to your uncles. My uncles was like, never steal from me. That's the trust issues. My Uncle Gary Cobb used to be like, there's only 2 things you could destroy of your own that nobody else could destroy. And that's your dreams and your word. And that's how I learned how to stand on my words. Now, here's another crazy thing I was taught by my uncles. I won't say which one. But it was like, I'll never sleep with your girl. Don't ever sleep with your family's girl unless they climb in your bed. Then all bets are off. You understand? Like, these are things that my uncles taught me. I had uncles around. I had uncles that told me you feed the kids first. Always respect the women. That's how my uncles raised me. And it's bad because a lot of us ain't there for our nephews now. And I kind of feel bad for that. That's why this year I want my nephews to come down for Christmas. I want them to come down to the house. I want them to know Uncle Tiger. You know what I mean? That's where I'm trying to go with this podcast. That's where I'm trying to go with life. Like I said, I'm at the age now where it's about legacy. It's about what am I going to leave? My wife left her legacy. She left this house. She left them beautiful girls. She left a culture. She left a blueprint for me on how to move forward, pay the bills, stay financially straight. So yeah, that's what I'm trying to do, y'all. I'm trying to move forward and trying to promote I just want to start saying positive things, the things that people are doing right. I don't want to bring out the negative and what people doing wrong. I'm trying to stay away from that. I want to do something different. I don't want to bring out the negativity and things. Yeah, a lot of the topics I'm going to be talking about might be hard. It'll be hard for people to handle. Because when I talk about legacy, I'm talking about when you hear on YouTube, on TikTok, or on Instagram every other day, yeah, start a trust fund. Get some health insurance and you get the health insurance to start your own bank and all that. That's fine. But guess what? The person that does that, the person that starts the trust fund, the person that starts the trust, that buys the house, that does all the things for long-term family money or old money, usually aren't the ones that enjoy it. That's the selfless act of having a legacy and thinking about your legacy and planning your legacy. A lot of times we work so hard planning our legacy that we don't really enjoy the things that we have so that our families can enjoy it, so our kids can enjoy it. And it's hard when I sit back and I think about leaving the house with the girls and, making sure that they safe and already, because right now their mom is gone. I'm 52, a hard conversation to talk about, but what's my life expectancy? I got to be honest. At 52 years old, that means right now my legacy is very important. The things I do for my kids is very important. And what I'm learning is that if I want to leave my daughters to a safe world, that means your daughter's got to be safe. Your son's got to be safe. Everybody has to be able to live in the same world. So For me to say that I want to raise my girls right and leave them to a world where there's going to be men that could protect them. There's going to be men that they really want to have children with that's going to be there for them, that's going to want to marry them, that's going to want to hold them down and do the things that I believe men should do. I consider myself a male chauvinist. This is true. I admit that. Me personally, I don't believe women should work. I believe the man, aka the husband, should be the provider of the family. Now, okay, I know I'm gonna get some backslack on that about women working and stuff. Now, my wife she was West Indian, so from a West Indian aspect, she used to tell me, her mother used to tell her all the time, never depend on a man to buy your panties. That's what Miss Morell used to tell Yolanda. Now, my mother, Beverly, she told my sister, don't you ever, excuse me, I ain't gonna curse. Don't you ever effing depend on on some dude to buy you your stuff like that. Don't ever do that. Get your own money. And trust me, my sister Buffy, she gets hers. My sister Angel, she gets hers. The women in my family, they still get theirs. Trust me, they get their money. They do what they got to do. But me, I feel like I'm able to take care of the family. I don't want my woman hard. I don't like a hard woman. I think women are supposed to be soft and gentle. Yeah, they could work. You know, if you're in college, doing the little things you're doing before you get married, sure, a side job, barista, you know, working at a coffee shop, something light, home care, health aid or something, just something where your body don't get hard, where your skin is still soft. You ever see grandma who still has grandpa around and they chippery and they smiling? Grandma soft. Grandma's gentle. Grandma's classy. That's the type of woman I like. I like educated, soft, classy women. Education, oh, I love the smart woman. That is so sexy. For real. My wife was smart. One of the things she learned getting her degrees is that when you start taking these quote unquote college classes and education classes and all that, when you start getting to the higher classes above bachelor's, you start learning it's better for one parent to be in the house. It's better when dad is the one that goes to the school, not mom. Statistically, they say when dads are seen going to the school, it's less likely for people at the school or people or the guys in the school to really mess with your kids because they know your dad is there. Facts. And that's not alleged. That's why I'm purposely saying that in order for us to better ourselves as a society, it's going to start with the fathers. Dad got to step up. Dad got to get back in the house. And I'm going to be honest with you. I've been noticing since my wife passed away, it's only been a couple of months of this, but I've been noticing that a lot of brothers are taking care of their kids by themselves. And unfortunately, the mothers are alive. They're here. They might not, some are not in the same state, some are not in the same town, but they're around. And the dads are taking care of the kids. I know a guy who's taking care of his two daughters, just like, well, I got three, he got two. Another one of my friends that I know, he's raising his son and his daughters by themselves. And I'm also noticing that in the black community, a lot of women are starting to realize that it is good for dad to be in the house. And that's a good thing. That's a real good thing. I'm noticing that a lot of less people are in the child support system. Maybe because a lot of these young kids aren't having kids as fast as we did back in the 80s and 90s. That could be it. It could be the economy. It could be when we was younger, you go out there and make money right out of high. You could drop out of high school and go start making $17, $18 an hour. When I was 17 years old, that's my word. I used to work for a company called White Rose, me and my Uncle Jeff, overnights. Still went to school during the day. At night, I would go to White Rose, right there in Farmingdale. You can make easy $300 a night. Yeah, that's the type of money I was making when I was 17, White Rose. And then once it moved out of Long Island, that's when, things went down. That's after Clinton with that NAFTA and all that other nonsense. But yeah, it starts with the father. So I would like to promote dads getting back in the house, dads being part of the family, dads marrying the woman that bear their children. Let our children grow up with moms and dads with the last name. Being together. It helps the children have a better foundation. It does. At least I think so. That's my perspective. And I'm glad, I was able to learn this, even if I had to learn it under, unfortunately, sad circumstances. But I know, and this is what I'm trying to do. And I'm just going to keep going in that direction. That's my goal. So with that being said, this being my first podcast installment, I would like to dedicate this first installment to my late wife, Yolanda Gray. I kept my word, Mommy. I did it. So I'd like to say thank you. Until next time, if there's a next time.